Have you ever known exactly what God is asking you to do and still found yourself trying to figure out a backup plan? Not because you don't believe in God, but because you're not sure. You're not sure He's going to come through the way you hope. And that's where a lot of men live. You believe, you're trying, but when things get rough, your money, your marriage, pressure, you start searching for control. Hey guys, thanks for joining me on Coffee and the Cross today. Love, life, and money. I'm Steve, your host. Today we're going to be talking about Abraham, and if there's one thing God wants to see in Abraham's life, it's this. A man can believe God and still struggle to trust Him everyday life. Before we get started, today I am drinking out of one of the You Were There mugs from Virginia. Got this, I believe in Virginia Beach we picked this up. I'm drinking a coffee substitute called Everyday Dose, D-O-Z-E. It's supposed to be a healthier coffee with collagen, peptides, and other goodness. I'm not a huge fan of it. I prefer regular coffee. But hey, I only have like one more tablespoon or one more cup to go. So yeah, if you want to try it, it's supposed to be healthy for you. I just prefer the real thing. But as we first see Abraham, God first speaks to Abraham in Genesis 12, 1 and 2, saying, "Go from your country, your people, your father's household, to the land I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Now don't miss this. God didn't hand him a foldable map, for those of you who remember the old foldable maps. Didn't hand him a map book, which was the upgrade to the old foldable maps. Didn't give him a timeline, didn't give him GPS coordinates, didn't tell him where he's going. He just said, go. The next verse, what does it say? Abraham packed up and went. No hesitation recorded. No argument, no talking to himself, no talking to his wife. He went. That is obedience. And there are a lot of guys who can relate to that in the past. You know, you've had moments where you've stepped up, took responsibility, made a hard decision. You did what you believed was right. But here's where Abraham's story takes a turn, because right after that, life gets comfortable. You know, he's wandering his way through, builds a couple altars for God. God tells him, keep going, go here, go there, go there. And he winds up near Egypt. And there was a huge famine in the land. Not enough food. Pressure to eat, right? He's got all these mouths to feed. He's got the animals. He's got people, his wife. And so he says to him, we gotta go into Egypt to get some food. And I know what a beautiful woman you are. Now, when the Egyptians see you, they're gonna say, this is his wife? Then they're gonna kill me. Let you live. So let's do this. You and I will say you're my sister. And that's just what they did. Now, Pharaoh's officials saw her, and they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken to his palace. And because of that, he treated Abraham well. Abram. I'm going to use Abraham and Abram back and forth. I apologize for that. Just know it's the same person. So I'm going to treat Abram well for her sake. But here's the thing. The man who trusted God enough to leave his family now doesn't trust God enough to protect him? He lies? Why? The only thing I can figure is fear. Plain and simple. Satan crept into there and gave him those little whispers that made him fear. Fear for his life. I don't think God's going to come. And if we're honest, that probably hit some kind of way because we've all done it. Most of us don't stop believing in God. We just stop trusting Him when things are rough. You trust God on Sunday, but on Saturday when the bills are stacking up, start stressing. There's more month at the end of the money. You're going to trust God with your life, but when your marriage gets rough, you're going to start to control it instead of going to God and asking for his help. You trust God in theory, but not always under pressure. And that's Abram. That's Abram's story. And here's what's crazy. Even through all that, God doesn't abandon him. God still protects Sarai. It says that the Lord inflicted serious disease on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife. Abram was questioned, and Pharaoh told him to go. Pharaoh asked him, why did you do this? And he told him, what kind of testimony is that, though? Let's stop for a second. What kind of testimony is it that Pharaoh is asking you, and now you have to say, well, actually, yeah, doesn't look good, does it? But you know what? God is faithful. It's not how Abraham handled it. It's not how God wanted Abraham to handle it, but God is still faithful. God still moves the story forward. So fast forward a few more chapters. God promises Abram a son. He says, look up at the sky and count the stars. So shall your offspring be. And Abram believes. Genesis 15:6 says, Abram believed the Lord, and he credited to him as righteousness. Now, the word righteousness can sound, a little churchy. So let's break this down really, really simple. It means God saw Abram as right with him. And because Abram was not perfect, but because he trusted God. Think about that for a minute. Abram trusted God, but did not always get it right. It's a lot like me. I'm guessing it's a lot like you too. But then some time passes, nothing happens, no son, no progress, no little hint. So no visible results. And what does waiting do when you're waiting for something? We get frustrated, right? We start to think, how can we take things in our own hands? And it tests us. It tests what we really believe. So Genesis 16, Abram and Sarai decide to, quote, help God. Hey, let's help God. God needs our help, right? Yeah, I think not. But they thought it was a good idea, and frankly, sometimes I do too. So Sarah comes up with this plan to give Abram her maidservant for him to try and have a child with so that they can continue the line. And so that's what happens. Abram has a child with Hagar, trying to fulfill God's promise in their own way. And here we go again. We see it all over again. Faith mixed with control. I believe God said it. But you know what? I don't have time to wait. I'm getting old. And that decision doesn't just affect Abram. It creates tension, conflict, consequences that ripple outward. That's what control does. It promises to fix things fast, but makes things more complicated. Think about a still pond. No waves, no wind. It looks like glass out there, and you take a small pebble, throw it as hard as you can in the middle of the pond, and those ripples are going to keep going out to the shoreline, and a lot of times bounce back and keep coming and keep bouncing back. I heard this story as I was preparing for this about the Kendrick brothers. For those of you who don't know who they are, they're three brothers that I'm going to make, quote, Christian movies. Basically, they're all movies that have God at the center of the story. Anyway, Alex Kendrick was telling the lessons they learned from just before making their first movie about a salesman on a car lot to the movie Overcomer. So this was a few years ago. But he was telling the story of facing the giants and how when the movie was finished, Alex flew to Hollywood and tried to get the movie distributors to take this latest movie. A company after company kept turning him down. And after being rejected one at a time, every day, multiple in a day, he flew back home from Hollywood to Georgia where they lived. Frustrated, frankly talking to God, "You've allowed us to make this movie, but we can't get anyone to see it. How's that going to happen? What's going on?" Well, as he retells this story, all movies have music in the background. And for this particular movie, they used some from the bigger, I'll call them bigger Christian bands at the time. But, they never got permission. A couple days after he had gotten back, his brother Stephen walked into the office. Said, "Hey, did we ever get permission to use the music?" Alex is like, "No, we haven't. So who's the record label? I'll reach out to them." So Stephen said, "Oh, it's Provident." I believe that's who it was, Provident. So Alex reached out to get permission, and they said, "Hey, before we can say yes, we need to see the movie." So send him a copy, figuring he'll hear back from them in a week or so. A couple weeks go by, and you get a call from the record label with one question. "Hey, we love the movie. Do you mind if we send this to our parent company? We think they would love to distribute this movie." To which Alex said, "Of course, but who's your parent company?" "Oh, our parent company is Sony." As Alex sat there, Sony was not one of the companies he spoke to. But it reminded him to not get ahead of God, to not be behind God unless he's fighting for you, but to stay lockstep with God. And that's where most of us start forcing outcomes. Alex tried to force the outcome. And Abram struggled, and he and his wife tried to force the outcome. But, the good news is Abraham's story does not end in failure. It actually ends in growth. Because fast forward several more years, God asks Abraham to do something even harder. By this time, he had given Abraham and Sarah a son, and they called him Isaac. The very promise he had waited for decades. Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac to God. Think about this. He's taken some time. In Abraham's eyes, if it was me, it's like, hold on a second. Whoa, time out, God. You give me this son to be able to populate the world more than the stars I can see. And now you want me to give him up for you again? I'm getting old here. Not Abraham. Abraham loaded the donkeys, grabbed the firewood, and went. Stopped his servants as they were going up to where they were going to do this sacrifice. He and his son took the wood and everything. And I'm thinking, Isaac's got to be saying, Dad, we're kind of missing the important part here, the actual sacrifice. But as you read the story, God waited for Abraham to tie up his son and get him on the altar. And then he provided him a ram in the thickets. God did it in his own way. He was testing Abraham to see if he was willing to obey him. Just like he did when he was called. Is he going to obey him now? And in this case, he passed the test. God provided the ram, a substitute for Isaac's sacrifice. But we can kind of see the gospel in this. God provided that ram in place of Isaac as a substitute. Abraham's son is spared because later on God would not spare his own son, but Jesus was a substitute for us and our sins, our wrongdoings. And if you haven't trusted God with your life, if you haven't said, you know what, I've done some bad things. I know I'm going to continue to do bad things, but God, I need your help not to. I need your help to be faithful to you. And if you trust that God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross to save you from sin and death for eternity, that you could live with him in heaven, if you have not done that today, I highly recommend you get right with God as soon as possible. You just need to pray to God, God, please forgive me. I need your help. I believe that you died on the cross. And more importantly, that you rose again and defeated death so that I can live with you and not die eternally. Highly recommend you do that. It'll change your life, literally. And actually, it'll change your death too, but that's a different story for a different day. But Abraham believed God, but he struggled. He obeyed, but he also tried to take control. And through all of it, God stayed faithful. So if you're a man who feels like your faith is real but not perfect, you're in good company. Because God does not build great men out of perfect ones. He builds men out of those who keep walking faithfully with him. And when you do fail, and you will, your knees are a great place to stop on the way back up. Hey guys, thanks again for listening. Looking forward to the next one. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to respond, email, text, whatever. And have a great week, everybody.